At 2:47 a.m. on August 23, 1943, Staff Sergeant Thomas Ryland crouched 15 yards from a Japanese guard at Cape Gloucester, New Britain, holding a weapon that would either save his life or blow his hand off. The weapon was a standard M1911 pistol with a Coca-Cola bottle wrapped in electrical tape and wired to the barrel. The guard stood next to a fuel barrel, smoking a cigarette, rifle slung over his shoulder. He was looking away from Ryland's position, toward the jungle canopy where insects screamed and leaves rustled in the humid night air. The air smelled like cigarette smoke and rotting vegetation and salt carried inland from the beach. Ryland's finger rested on the trigger. His pulse was 94 beats per minute, elevated but controlled. The bottle suppressor weighed 0.7 pounds. It made the pistol nose heavy. The balance was wrong. But balance didn't matter if the bottle shattered and sent glass fragments into his hand at 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Or if the glass held but the sound carried and alerted the other 18 guards positioned between Ryland and the fuel depot. 14 OSS operatives had died in the past 5 months trying missions exactly like this one. Died because a single gunshot alerted Japanese reinforcements before the operative could complete the objective. Died because nobody could figure out how to make an EM1911 fire quietly. Ryland had figured it out with a Coke bottle and cotton cloth and steel wool. At least, he thought he had. In about 3 seconds, he'd know if his engineering degree from Detroit meant anything, or if he was about to lose 3 fingers and alert every Japanese soldier within 200 yards. The guard took a final drag on his cigarette, flicked it toward the jungle, turned back toward his patrol route. Ryland aimed at the base of the guard's skull, exhaled slowly, squeezed the trigger. Between March and August 1943, the Office of Strategic Services lost 14 operatives during infiltration missions in Japanese-occupied Philippines and New Guinea. Not killed in firefights, not killed by artillery or aircraft. Killed because a single gunshot compromised their position before they could complete their objectives. The pattern was consistent and brutal. Operative approaches target. Operative eliminates first guard with knife. Second guard requires pistol. Operative fires standard M1911. Muzzle report carries 150 to 200 yards. Japanese reinforcements arrive within 90 seconds. Operative dies or mission aborts. By summer 1943, OSS had quantified the problem precisely. Average time from gunshot to enemy contact, 93 seconds. Average operative survival time after contact, 8 minutes. Mission success rate, 26%. Casualty rate, 40%. 14 dead operatives in 5 months. 14 letters to families saying their sons or husbands died serving their country. The letters didn't mention why. Didn't mention that those men died because the United States military couldn't provide suppressed weapons to the Pacific Theater. Standard suppressed weapons existed. The British had designed the Welrod pistol in 1942. Single shot, bolt action, integral suppressor. Effective range 25 yards. Sound signature approximately 73 decibels. Quieter than a normal conversation. The British also had the Lisle carbine. Bolt-action rifle converted from Lee Enfield. Fired .45 ACP ammunition. Sound signature approximately 85 decibels. Both weapons were perfect for infiltration missions. Both weapons were unavailable in the Pacific Theater. Production was limited. Maybe 200 Welrods manufactured by mid-1943. Distribution prioritized European operations. OSS operatives in France and Italy needed suppressed weapons for resistance coordination and targeted elimination operations. The Pacific Theater was secondary priority. Shipping constraints made the problem worse. Every pound of cargo space from the United States to forward bases in New Guinea or the Philippines was allocated months in advance. Medical supplies, ammunition, food, replacement parts. Specialized weapons like suppressed pistols didn't make the list. Even if they had, the weapons wouldn't arrive for 3 to 4 months. By August 1943, OSS Command in the Pacific had 3 options. Abort all infiltration missions requiring silent guard elimination. Accept 40% casualty rates and continue operations. Or find a solution with available equipment. Command chose option 2. Operatives kept dying. Their missions kept failing. And nobody knew how to make a standard M1911 pistol fire quietly enough to matter. Lieutenant James Morrison died on March 14, 1943, during an infiltration mission near Luzon in the Philippines. He was 26 years old, Yale graduate, history major. Volunteered for OSS in 1942 after reading about British special operations in France. His family owned a textile company in Connecticut. He spoke fluent Spanish and decent Tagalog. OSS sent him to the Philippines to coordinate with local resistance fighters. His mission on March 14th was straightforward. Infiltrate Japanese radio station, eliminate guards, plant demolition charges, destroy communications equipment, exfiltrate before dawn. Morrison approached the radio station at 1:32 a.m., crawled 200 yards through sugarcane fields, reached the perimeter fence undetected. 2 guards patrolled the compound. Morrison eliminated the first guard with his knife. Standard OSS technique. Approached from behind, hand over mouth, blade through kidney and up into lung. The guard died without making a sound. The second guard was 40 feet away, standing under a floodlight. Morrison could reach him without being seen. He had to use his pistol. OSS had issued Morrison an M1911 with an improvised suppression method, a pillow wrapped around the barrel with electrical tape. The theory was that the pillow fabric would absorb some of the muzzle blast and reduce the sound signature. Morrison aimed. Fired. The pillow reduced the sound by maybe 15%. The gunshot was still loud enough to wake the dead, loud enough to carry 150 yards to the Japanese barracks. Morrison heard shouting immediately, heard boots running. He tried to complete the mission anyway, ran toward the radio building. 12 Japanese soldiers arrived 75 seconds after the gunshot. Morrison fought for 4 minutes, fired 18 rounds, killed 2 soldiers, wounded 3 more. A rifle bullet caught him in the chest. He died against the radio building wall. Filipino resistance fighters found his body 3 days later. The Japanese had left him where he fell. His mission was deemed technically successful by OSS. He'd eliminated 1 guard as ordered, but operationally, it was catastrophic. The radio station remained functional. The demolition charges stayed in Morrison's pack, and Morrison was dead because a pillow couldn't make a pistol quiet enough. Captain Robert Chen died on May 3, 1943, near Rabaul on New Britain. He was 31 years old, former Marine, had served in China before the war, spoke Mandarin and Japanese, joined OSS specifically for demolitions work. His specialty was sabotage operations against Japanese supply infrastructure. On May 3rd, Chen's mission was to destroy an ammunition depot 5 miles inland from Rabaul Harbor. Intelligence reported the depot held 8 tons of artillery shells and small arms ammunition. Chen's team consisted of 3 men. Chen as team leader, 1 radio man, 1 native guide. They approached the depot at 11:47 p.m. The depot had 6 guards on perimeter duty. Chen tried a different improvised suppression method. Sandbags tied around his pistol barrel with rope. The theory was that sand would absorb muzzle pressure and reduce sound. Chen eliminated the first guard at 12:13 a.m. fired one shot into the guard's back. The sandbag method reduced sound by approximately 20%. Still not enough. The gunshot carried 200 yards to a Japanese patrol camp. Sirens went off within 60 seconds. Searchlights swept the jungle. Chen heard dogs barking. The Japanese deployed 6 tracking dogs and 23 soldiers. Chen tried to reach the extraction point. 3 miles through jungle terrain, the dogs caught his scent. The pursuit lasted 18 minutes. Chen's radio man and guide escaped. Chen got trapped at a cliff edge overlooking a river gorge. He fought until he ran out of ammunition. Then he jumped rather than be captured. Japanese protocol was to torture captured OSS operatives for intelligence. Chen knew this. His body was never recovered. The river current carried him downstream. His death hit OSS morale hard. Other operatives started requesting transfers out of infiltration duty. Started asking why they were being sent on missions without proper equipment. Started questioning whether command cared if they lived or died. The answer was that command did care. But command had no suppressors to give them. And operatives kept dying anyway. The pattern held across 14 deaths between March and August 1943. 14 infiltration missions, 14 operatives using improvised suppression methods. 19 total missions attempted during this period. 5 succeeded despite alerted guards. 14 failed. 14 operatives killed. The improvised suppression methods were cataloged in OSS after-action reports. Pillows wrapped around barrels. Sound reduction approximately 15%. Too bulky for field use. Sandbags tied to barrels. Sound reduction approximately 20%. Unwieldy during movement. Made aiming difficult. Rolled blankets secured with tape. Sound reduction approximately 10%. Ineffective. Provided minimal benefit. Added weight and bulk. Oil-soaked rags wrapped tight. Sound reduction approximately 25%. Best of the improvised methods, but created fire risk from muzzle flash. Operatives reported rags smoking or igniting after shots. None of the methods worked well enough. An M1911 pistol produces approximately 157 decibels at the muzzle. Human hearing damage threshold is 140 decibels. A 25% reduction still left the sound at 118 decibels, roughly equivalent to a chainsaw or thunder directly overhead. Loud enough to alert guards 200 yards away. Loud enough to compromise missions. Loud enough to get operatives killed. OSS Command issued a memo on June 12, 1943. The memo acknowledged the suppressor problem. Stated that manufactured suppressed weapons were unavailable. Directed operatives to continue operations with existing equipment. The memo effectively said, keep dying until we figure something out, or until suppressed weapons arrive. Whichever came first. Staff Sergeant Thomas Ryland was 29 years old in the summer of 1943. He was from Detroit, Michigan. Before the war, he'd worked as a mechanical engineer at Ford Motor Company. His specialty was automotive exhaust systems. He designed mufflers and resonators and catalytic baffles. Spent 7 years figuring out how to make V8 engines run quietly enough for civilian use. The engineering principles were straightforward. Hot exhaust gas exits the engine at high pressure and temperature. Travels through a pipe into an expansion chamber. The chamber slows the gas, reduces pressure. A series of chambers and baffles progressively reduces the sound signature until the exhaust exits at acceptable noise levels. Ryland understood these principles completely. He'd designed dozens of exhaust systems, knew the math, knew the material science, knew what worked and what didn't. When Pearl Harbor happened in December 1941, Ryland enlisted immediately. The Army assigned him to the Corps of Engineers. He spent 4 months building bridges and airstrips. Then OSS recruited him in April 1942. They wanted his technical skills. Wanted someone who could improvise solutions when standard equipment failed or didn't exist. Ryland completed OSS training at Congressional Country Club in Maryland. Learned demolitions, small arms, hand-to-hand combat, infiltration techniques, map reading, radio operation. He deployed to Milne Bay, New Guinea in January 1943. His official role was sabotage operations specialist. His unofficial role was the guy other operatives came to when their equipment broke or when they needed something that didn't exist in the supply system. Ryland flew his first infiltration mission on March 28, 1943. The target was a Japanese supply cache 40 miles inland from Milne Bay. Intelligence reported 3 guards. Ryland's mission was to eliminate the guards and destroy the supplies with thermite grenades. He used a pillow wrapped around his Meriem 1911 barrel. Same method Morrison had used 2 weeks earlier. Ryland didn't know about Morrison yet. That information hadn't filtered down to field operatives. Ryland approached the first guard at 2:17 a.m., aimed, fired. The pillow did almost nothing. The sound carried. A Japanese patrol 200 yards away heard it clearly. They responded immediately. Ryland and his team aborted the mission. Ran back through the jungle toward extraction. Barely made it. 0 casualties but complete mission failure. Ryland wrote in his after-action report that improvised pillow suppression was ineffective. Recommended different approach. Didn't specify what approach because he didn't know yet. Ryland's second mission was May 19, 1943. Target was a communications relay station. 5 guards on perimeter. Ryland tried oil-soaked canvas wrapped around the barrel. He'd read about sound dampening with fabric and oil in an engineering manual. Thought it might work better than a pillow. He eliminated the first guard at 11:34 p.m. The canvas method reduced sound more than the pillow had, maybe 25% reduction. But the sound still carried 180 yards to another guard position. The Japanese didn't make direct contact, but they swept the area with searchlights. Ryland completed the mission, planted charges on the communications equipment. Exfiltrated successfully. But it was close. Too close. The mission succeeded despite the suppression failure, not because of it. Ryland noted in his report that 50% more sound reduction was minimum requirement for reliable infiltration work. His third mission was July 8, 1943. Target was a fuel depot, similar to the Cape Gloucester depot he'd hit in August. 7 guards. Ryland tried sandbags tied with wire. He'd heard other operatives had used this method. Figured it might work better than fabric. He was wrong. The first guard went down at 1:41 a.m. The sandbag reduced sound by maybe 20%. A Japanese patrol heard the shot from 200 yards away. They called in dogs. Ryland's team ran. The pursuit lasted 40 minutes through jungle terrain. One operative took shrapnel from a grenade. The team had to carry him. They made extraction, but it was the closest call Ryland had experienced. His team leader, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, filed the after-action report. Webb wrote, "Current suppression methods inadequate. Recommend acquisition of proper suppressed weapons or suspension of night infiltration operations." OSS Command responded on July 14th. The response said, "No suppressed weapons available. Continue operations with existing equipment." Ryland read that response. Didn't file a complaint. Didn't request transfer. Just started thinking harder about the problem. Started thinking about exhaust systems and Ford V8s and whether engineering principles that worked on cars might work on pistols. 2 weeks after that third mission, Ryland sat in the mess tent at Milne Bay, holding an empty Coca-Cola bottle. And something clicked in his brain. July 24th, 1943. 7:38 p.m. Ryland sat in the mess tent at Milne Bay, finishing his evening meal. Rice, canned beef, bread that tasted like cardboard. He'd stopped noticing the food months ago. What he noticed was the Coca-Cola bottle in his hand. 6.5 ounces. Glass. Standard military issue. The War Department shipped 330,000 bottles monthly to Pacific bases. Part of the morale program. Remind soldiers of home. Give them something familiar. Ryland held the empty bottle up to the light from the kerosene lamps. Looked at the shape. Narrow neck, wider base, uniform cylindrical body, consistent glass thickness. He turned it slowly, examined the contours. Something about the shape triggered a memory. An exhaust expansion chamber on a 1940 Ford V8. Same basic geometry. Narrow inlet, wider body, outlet at the far end. The principle was simple physics. Hot exhaust gas enters through narrow pipe, expands into larger chamber, pressure drops, sound reduces. Multiple chambers create progressive pressure reduction. By the time gas exits, it's quiet enough for civilian use. A firearm suppressor worked the same way. Muzzle blast exits barrel at high pressure. Enters suppressor tube. Baffles inside slow the gas expansion. Each baffle creates a chamber. Gas expands. Pressure drops. Sound reduces. Standard military suppressors used steel baffles. Precision machined threads. Tight tolerances. Materials that could survive 10,000 rounds of heat and pressure. But Ryland wasn't thinking about 10,000 rounds. He needed 3 shots, maybe 5, just enough to clear a perimeter and complete the mission. The question was whether glass could survive even that much. An M1911-45 ACP round generated approximately 21,000 pounds per square inch of chamber pressure. The muzzle flash reached 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Both would hit the bottle immediately upon firing. Glass might shatter from pressure alone, or crack from thermal shock, or explode and send fragments into Ryland's hand. Any engineer would say it couldn't work. Glass was brittle. Couldn't flex under pressure like steel. Would fail catastrophically. Except Ryland knew something about glass. It was stronger than most people thought. A Coke bottle was designed to hold carbonated liquid under pressure. Maybe 60 pounds per square inch. Nothing compared to firearm pressure. But the glass was thick, uniform, well made. It might survive one shot if the pressure was distributed correctly. If some kind of baffle system slowed the gas before it hit the glass walls. If the bottle was reinforced to contain fragments, if it did shatter. Ryland looked at the bottle again, thought about cotton cloth, steel wool, electrical tape, materials available at any forward base, materials he could scavenge without requisition forms or approval. He could pack cloth and steel wool inside the bottle, create improvised baffles. The cloth would absorb initial gas expansion. Steel wool would provide structure. Multiple layers would create progressive pressure reduction. Same principle as an exhaust system. Different materials, cruder execution. But the math was the same. He stood, walked to the supply shed, started collecting materials. 11:30 p.m. Ryland worked alone in the corner of the supply shed. Most of the maintenance crews had gone to their bunks. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, threw harsh shadows across the workbench. The air smelled like machine oil and canvas and tropical mildew. Ryland had collected 3 empty Coke bottles from behind the mess tent, 1 roll of electrical tape from the communications section, 2 pads of steel wool from the maintenance supply, 1 cotton undershirt from his own pack. He'd torn the shirt into strips, cut them into pieces roughly 1 inch by 3 inches. His M1911 lay on the bench, serial number 1147638, standard issue, well maintained. He'd cleaned it that morning. Now he was about to attach a glass bottle to the barrel and hope it didn't explode. He picked up the first bottle, held it up to check for cracks or defects. The glass looked clean, no visible flaws. He started packing cotton cloth inside, pushed it down with a screwdriver handle, compressed it tight. The first layer went in 2 inches deep, then a layer of steel wool. He compressed that too. The steel wool fought back, had to be forced into the narrow bottleneck. Once inside, it expanded to fill the space, created a dense barrier, another layer of cotton, another layer of steel wool. He alternated materials until he'd filled the bottle about halfway, left the rest empty for gas expansion. The theory was that the baffles would slow the initial blast. The empty space would allow controlled expansion. The glass would contain it all. Probably. He wrapped electrical tape around the base of the bottle. 12 layers, overlapping, tight. The tape would reinforce the glass. If the bottle shattered, the tape might contain the fragments, keep them from flying into his hand. Might. He'd know soon enough. The attachment system was crude. He cut 3 feet of 18-gauge wire from the radio repair kit, wrapped it around the bottleneck. 8 complete loops. Twisted the ends together with pliers, created a wire collar. Then he slipped the collar over the M1911's barrel. The fit was loose. The bottle wobbled. He added more wire. 16 additional loops wrapped around both bottle and barrel. Twisted tight. The bottle stopped wobbling. He tested the attachment by shaking the pistol. The bottle held firm. He weighed the assembled weapon in his hand. The pistol normally weighed 2.4 pounds empty. With the bottle, it was 3.1 pounds. The balance was wrong. Nose heavy. Would affect aim. But effective range on a suppressed infiltration shot was usually 15 to 20 yards. He could compensate for the balance at that range. Construction time had been 47 minutes, longer than he'd expected. The steel wool had been difficult to compress. The wire wrapping had taken 3 attempts to get tight enough. But it was done. The weapon looked absurd, like something a child would build. A pistol with a Coke bottle taped to the barrel. If his engineering professors at the University of Michigan could see this, they'd revoke his degree. He picked up the second bottle, started building a backup. If the first bottle failed, he'd need a replacement ready. The second one took 31 minutes. He was getting faster, learning the technique. By the third bottle, he was down to 23 minutes. Muscle memory developing. 12:30 a.m., July 25th. Ryland walked behind the supply shed, carried the pistol with the first bottle attached. He'd set up a sandbag backstop earlier, 15 yards away, far enough to be safe if the bottle exploded, close enough to evaluate sound reduction accurately. The jungle was quiet except for insects. No one else was awake. No one would hear the test shots. Or if they did, they'd assume someone was doing maintenance work on weapons. Test firing happened occasionally at night when operatives couldn't sleep. Ryland stood facing the sandbags, raised the pistol, aimed. The bottle made the weapon unwieldy. He had to adjust his grip, support the extra weight. His finger found the trigger. He thought about Morrison, about Chen, about 14 dead operatives who'd tried to make pistols quiet and failed. This would either work or it wouldn't. He squeezed the trigger. The pistol fired. The recoil felt normal, maybe slightly dampened. The sound was different. Not the sharp crack of a normal M1911. More of a muted thump, like dropping a heavy book on a table. Loud enough to hear clearly, but not loud enough to carry 200 yards, maybe 100 yards, maybe less. He looked at the bottle, still attached, glass intact. But visible stress cracks had appeared near the base. Hairline fractures, spider webbing slightly. He touched the bottle. The glass was warm, not hot. The electrical tape had protected his hand from the heat. The cotton inside was smoking slightly. He could smell it. Burnt fabric. The steel wool had probably glowed red for a moment. He couldn't see inside to confirm, but the bottle had held. One shot. Significant sound reduction, maybe 50 to 60%. Enough to cut the effective range from 200 yards to maybe 100. Still not perfect, but better than anything he'd tried before. He aimed again, fired the second shot. The sound was slightly louder than the first. The stress cracks widened, visible even in the poor light. The bottle was weakening, but it held. He fired a third shot. The bottle shattered. Glass exploded inside the tape wrapping. But the tape contained it, kept the fragments from flying. Ryland felt the bottle collapse against the barrel, felt pieces shifting inside the tape. But nothing hit his hand. No burns, no cuts. 3 shots before catastrophic failure. He detached the destroyed bottle, unwrapped the tape carefully. Glass fragments fell out, maybe 30 pieces, none larger than a quarter. The cotton inside was charred black. The steel wool had partially melted, fused into lumps, but the concept had worked. 3 suppressed shots, enough for most infiltration missions. He attached the second bottle, the one he'd built as backup, fired 3 more shots, same results. Bottle held for shot 1. Stress cracks on shot 2, complete failure on shot 3. Tape contained the fragments, repeatable results. The concept was viable. He spent the next hour refining the design. Built a third bottle with more tape, 20 layers instead of 12. Tighter wire wrapping, 24 loops instead of 16. Different baffle arrangement. Alternated cotton and steel wool every half inch instead of every inch. Denser packing, more progressive pressure reduction. He test-fired the improved design. Shot 1. Good suppression. Minimal cracking. Shot 2. Cracks appeared but bottle held strong. Shot 3. Cracks widened. Shot 4. Bottle held. Sound reduction degrading but still functional. Shot 5. Catastrophic failure. The improved design gave him 5 shots instead of 3. Better than expected. But more importantly, the results were consistent. Build the bottle correctly. Get 3 to 5 suppressed shots. Predictable performance. He could work with that. 7:43 a.m. Ryland found Lieutenant Webb in the operations tent. Webb was reviewing mission reports, looked up when Ryland entered. Ryland placed the pistol on the table, bottle still attached. Webb stared at it. "What am I looking at?" "Suppressor," Ryland said. "Made from a Coke bottle." Webb picked up the pistol, examined the bottle, the electrical tape, the wire wrapping. He looked at Ryland like he'd lost his mind. "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen an engineer build." "Worked for 4 shots last night," Ryland said. "Reduced sound by maybe 60%. And when it explodes in your hand? It won't. The tape contains the fragments." "You tested that?" 5 bottles. Same results every time. 3 to 5 shots before failure. Tape holds." Webb set the pistol down, rubbed his face. He'd been in country for 8 months. Looked 10 years older than when he arrived. "You're seriously proposing we use Coke bottles as suppressors? Unless you've got Welrods hidden somewhere." Webb didn't. Nobody did. He studied the bottle again, picked up the pistol, weighed it in his hand. "Show me." They walked to the firing range behind the base perimeter. Ryland had brought 2 additional bottles. Webb watched him attach one to his pistol, watched him aim at targets downrange, watched him fire 3 shots. Each shot quieter than a normal pistol, each shot hitting center mass on the target. The bottle shattered on the 4th shot. Tape contained the glass. Webb stood silent for a long moment. "How many bottles per mission?" "2 minimum," Ryland said. "1 attached, 1 backup in pack, each good for 3 shots, 6 shots total." "How long to build one?" 20 minutes with practice." "Materials?" "Everywhere. Coke bottles, tape, steel wool, cotton." Webb nodded slowly. "I need to show this to Major Vance." Major Harold Vance commanded OSS Detachment 101. He arrived at the range 30 minutes later, watched Ryland demonstrate. 3 shots, bottle held. Good suppression. Vance's expression didn't change. He'd seen too many improvised solutions fail. "How many guards you figure this'll work on?" Vance asked. "Mission dependent," Ryland said. 2 bottles. 6 shots total. Maybe more if bottles last longer than 3 shots. Cape Gloucester Depot has 19 guards. Then I'll need 3 bottles. Vance looked at the shattered bottle on the ground, looked at Ryland. Coca-Cola Company would be proud, winning the war 1 bottle at a time. He picked up Ryland's pistol, examined the intact bottle still attached. "This looks ridiculous." "Yes, sir." "Probably violates every ordnance regulation." "Probably." "Might save lives." "That's the idea." Vance handed the pistol back. "You're cleared to use it. Cape Gloucester mission is 3 days out. You've got 72 hours to build 3 bottles and pray they work better in combat than they look on paper." Ryland built 6 bottles that afternoon, taught 3 other operatives the construction technique. Word spread through the detachment. By evening, 12 operatives wanted bottle suppressors for upcoming missions. Ryland trained 4 of them on building technique. 30 minutes each. Show them the materials, demonstrate the packing, watch them build one themselves. Simple enough that anyone could learn. Complicated enough that careless construction would cause early failure. The key was consistent baffle density. Packed too tight and gas couldn't expand properly. Packed too loose and pressure hit the glass too hard. Just right meant 3 to 5 reliable shots. By midnight on July 25th, 8 operatives had built functional bottle suppressors. By July 27th, 14 operatives. The technique spread faster than any official doctrine ever had. Because it worked. Because operatives were desperate. Because 14 men had died and nobody wanted to be number 15. August 20th, 1943. Operations Tent, Milne Bay. Major Vance spread aerial reconnaissance photos across the table. Japanese fuel depot at Cape Gloucester. 8,000 gallons aviation fuel. 4,000 gallons diesel. Strategic target. Supply point for Japanese air operations out of Rabaul. 19 guards on perimeter duty. Rotating 2-hour shifts. Guard spacing 40 to 60 yards. Intelligence from Australian coast watchers. Confirmed 3 days prior. Mission parameters were straightforward. Eliminate guards silently. Plant demolition charges on fuel storage. Exfiltrate before dawn. Previous attempts at similar targets had gone badly. 4 missions, 4 failures. 2 operatives killed, 3 wounded. Guards always heard the shots, always responded, always turned infiltration into firefight. This time would be different. Ryland had 3 Coke bottle suppressors. Team insertion by submarine, 3 miles offshore. Inflatable raft to beach. Land at 1:30 a.m. 4 hours until dawn. 4 hours to eliminate 19 guards and blow 8,000 gallons of fuel. Ryland's team consisted of 3 men, himself as primary. Corporal James Martinez as demo specialist. Private Eddie Foster as radio man. 3 men against 19 guards. Standard odds for OSS infiltration work. Equipment loadout. 3 M1911 pistols, 6 bottle suppressors total, 40 pounds of demolition charges, 50 feet of det cord, timers, radio, knives, extraction plan, same beach. 6 a.m., submarine pickup. Major Vance looked at Ryland. 19 guards with Coke bottles. You're either very brave or very stupid. Little of both, sir, Ryland said. August 23rd, 1:47 a.m. The submarine surfaced 3 miles off Cape Gloucester. Ryland's team launched the raft, paddled toward shore. The ocean was calm. No moon. Good infiltration weather. They reached the beach at 2:11 a.m., buried the raft in sand, marked the location, moved inland. The jungle was thick. Humidity 91%, temperature 78 degrees. Ryland carried his M1911 with the first bottle attached. 2 backup bottles in his pack, wrapped in cloth. The team moved single file. Ryland leading, Martinez second. Foster rear security. No talking, hand signals only. Distance to depot was 1.2 miles. Took them 47 minutes to reach the perimeter. They established observation position at 2:34 a.m. Ryland counted guards, 19 visible. Matched intelligence reports, guard pairs walking irregular patterns. Some smoking, some sitting, some alert, most bored. Standard garrison duty. They'd been doing this for months, hadn't been attacked, didn't expect to be. Ryland studied the guard positions, planned his route. North to south. Systematic elimination. Start with isolated guards, work toward the center. He checked his watch. 2:47 a.m. Time to find out if Coke bottles could really do this. The first guard stood next to a fuel barrel, smoking, rifle slung, looking away from Ryland's position. Range 15 yards. Ryland raised the pistol. The bottle made it nose heavy. He compensated, aimed at the base of the skull, exhaled, squeezed. The sound was a muted thump. The guard fell forward. No cry, no sound except the body hitting dirt. Ryland examined the bottle immediately. Glass intact. 1 hairline crack at the base. Acceptable. Martinez signaled thumbs up from 20 yards back. Mission clock started. Guards 2 and 3 were 50 yards east, standing together, sharing food, talking quietly. Ryland circled. Used the first guard's position as cover. Approached to 18 yards. Both guards facing each other, neither watching the perimeter. Ryland shot the first guard in the chest. The sound carried slightly. The second guard turned. Ryland fired again. 2 seconds between shots. Both guards down. The bottle showed stress cracks now, spider webbing from the base. Maybe 4 more shots before failure. He had 17 guards remaining. Math wasn't good. Guards 4 and 5 were 45 yards south, patrolling, moving. Ryland waited. 3 minutes. They stopped to light cigarettes. Range 22 yards, pushing effective pistol range. First shot hit the left guard's shoulder. Not lethal. The guard started to cry out. Ryland fired again immediately. Headshot. The guard collapsed. Second guard turned. Ryland fired third shot. Clean hit. Both guards down within 5 seconds. The bottle was failing. Cracks extended halfway up. 1 more shot maximum. Guard 6 was alone, sitting against a tree. Appeared to be sleeping. Range 12 yards. Easy shot. Ryland fired. The guard never woke up. The bottle shattered immediately after. Tape contained the fragments. Ryland detached it. Retrieved the second bottle from his pack. Attached it to the barrel. 90 seconds to swap. Guard 7 was 38 yards south. Standing watch near fuel tanks. Alert. Scanning. Ryland's first shot with the new bottle. The suppression was excellent. Better than the first bottle. Maybe he'd packed the baffles tighter. The guard dropped. 7 guards eliminated. 12 remaining. Time elapsed. 40 minutes. Guard 8 nearly ended everything. He was walking patrol, coming directly toward Ryland's position, 20 yards out, closing. Ryland froze. The guard stopped, looked around. Something felt wrong to him. He called out in Japanese. "Who's there?" No answer from the eliminated guards. The guard unslung his rifle, advanced toward Ryland. 12 yards. Ryland had no choice. Fired. The bottle worked perfectly. Guard fell. But his finger contracted on the trigger. The rifle fired into the ground. One loud gunshot. Unmistakable. Ryland waited. 2 minutes. No response from other guards. Either they didn't hear it or didn't care. Accidental discharge, maybe. Guards got careless. Ryland kept moving. Guards 9 through 11 went down in 15 minutes. Systematic, efficient. The second bottle was holding well. 6 shots, still functional. Minor cracking, but nothing critical. Guards 12 and 13 stood together, talking. Ryland couldn't eliminate one without alerting the other. He fired twice, 3 seconds apart. Both guards dropped before either could cry out. The bottle showed serious stress now. Guards 14 took the furthest shot yet. 42 yards. Ryland aimed, fired. The bottle shattered mid-shot. Sound was much louder. Maybe 50% normal volume. The guard fell, but other guards called out, questioned the sound. Ryland detached his third and final bottle. Fastest swap yet. 70 seconds. 5 guards remaining. Guard 15 was investigating. Walking toward Guard 14's position, range 28 yards. Ryland fired. Clean kill. Excellent suppression. Third bottle seemed strongest yet. Maybe he'd learned something building the earlier ones. Guards 16 and 17 were near the fuel tanks. Primary target area. Ryland crawled 8 minutes to get position. 25 yards. First shot. Guard facing away. Back shot. Second guard turned. Saw his partner fall. Reached for rifle. Ryland fired. Both guards down. 2 shots. Bottle still holding. Guard 18 was on an elevated platform, overlooking the depot. Height advantage. Clear view. Martinez created a distraction. Threw a rock opposite direction. The guard turned. Ryland fired. Range 33 yards. Hit shoulder. Guard stumbled. Ryland fired again. Headshot. Guard fell from platform. Body hit ground hard, loud, but no response from the last guard. Guard 19 was in the central depot area, near main fuel tanks. He was nervous now. Other guards weren't responding to radio checks. He knew something was wrong. Unslung his rifle. Alert. Scanning. Ryland circled. Took 12 minutes. Flanked him. Range 18 yards. Clear shot. Final guard. Final shot. Ryland aimed. Center mass. Squeezed. The guard fell instantly. 19 guards, 19 shots, 3 bottles, 0 casualties. Mission. Time. 2 hours, 6 minutes. Martinez moved in. Placed charges on 6 fuel tanks. Set timers for 20 minutes. Enough time to reach the beach. The team moved. Fast. Back through jungle. 1.2 miles. The charges detonated at 5:31 a.m. Massive explosion. Secondary detonations as fuel ignited. Black smoke column visible for miles. Japanese sirens, vehicle engines, shouting. But Ryland's team was already at the beach. Submarine surfaced 6:04 a.m. Team aboard 6:16 a.m. Submarine submerged 6:18 a.m. Japanese patrol boats arrived 6:23 a.m. 5 minutes too late. Mission complete. 0 casualties. 19 guards eliminated with Coca-Cola bottles and cotton cloth. Major Vance would never doubt improvised engineering again. August 24th, Milne Bay. Ryland stood in Major Vance's tent, hands still shaking from delayed adrenaline. The third bottle sat on the table, still attached to his pistol, intact. Stress cracks visible but not catastrophic. Could have fired 2 more shots maybe. Vance examined it, turned it slowly. You eliminated 19 enemy combatants with soda bottles and cotton balls. Ryland nodded. Engineering, sir. The math worked. The math worked. Vance repeated. He set the pistol down, looked at Ryland. This is either genius or the stupidest luck in military history. Bit of both. Vance wrote something in his notebook. How many bottles per mission do you recommend? 2 minimum, 3 for high guard count. Each good for 3 to 5 shots. And if we give these to other operatives? They'll need training, 30 minutes. I can teach them. Vance closed the notebook. You just changed infiltration operations for this entire theater. You know that? Ryland didn't respond. He was thinking about Morrison, about Chen, about 14 dead operatives who'd tried to make pistols quiet and failed. The bottle suppressor wouldn't bring them back. But it might save the next guy. Word spread through OSS Detachment 101 within 12 hours. Martinez told the story to other demo specialists. Foster radioed preliminary report to headquarters. Silent infiltration successful. New suppression method effective. Headquarters responded. Explain new suppression method. Vance sent detailed report. Included Ryland's construction instructions, bottle dimensions, baffle materials, wire attachment method, expected shot count. Within 48 hours, 6 operatives requested bottle suppressors for upcoming missions. Ryland trained 4 of them personally, showed them how to pack the baffles, how to wrap the tape, how to secure the wire. Average construction time dropped to 23 minutes with practice. Materials were unlimited. Every base had Coke bottles. Every supply shed had tape and wire. Steel wool was standard maintenance equipment. Cotton cloth came from torn undershirts. Cost per suppressor was effectively 0. Durability was 3 to 5 shots consistently. Exactly what infiltration missions required. The statistical impact showed immediately. August through September 1943. 8 infiltration missions conducted with bottle suppressors. Mission success rate 100%. 8 of 8 completed successfully. Operative casualties 0. Guards eliminated quietly 47 total. Compare that to the previous period, April through July 1943. 19 missions attempted without suppressors. Success rate 26%. 5 of 19 successful. Operative casualties 14 killed. 3 wounded. The numbers told the story. Bottle suppressors worked. Operatives lived. Missions succeeded. By mid-September, 12 OSS operatives in the Pacific Theater were using bottle suppressors routinely. By October, 23 operatives. The technique spread to other units, Philippines, Burma. Even British SOE operatives learned it. Started building their own versions for Webley revolvers and Enfield pistols. The principle was universal. Glass bottle, improvised baffles, electrical tape reinforcement. Worked across different weapons with minor modifications. Japanese intelligence noticed the pattern in September. Guards disappearing without gunfire. Entire perimeters eliminated silently. Captured documents from post-war analysis showed Japanese confusion. One report from Rabaul Garrison Commander dated September 18th. American infiltrators employing new silent weapon system. Nature unknown. Recommend increased guard pairing and shorter patrol routes. Another report from October 2nd. Guards must maintain visual contact with adjacent positions at all times. Silent elimination methods being used extensively. Japanese countermeasures included 3-man guard teams instead of pairs. More frequent radio checks. Shorter patrol routes, overlapping fields of observation. The changes made infiltration harder, but not impossible. Ryland adapted, used longer range shots, more patient approaches, accepted longer mission timelines. The bottles still worked. Japanese radio intercepts from October showed continued frustration. One intercepted message. Assume Americans have acquired British suppressed weapons. Standard countermeasures ineffective. Reality was simpler. Coca-Cola bottles and cotton cloth. Japanese never figured it out during the war. One captured Japanese officer was questioned on October 14th, asked about garrison security measures. The officer stated they assumed Americans had Welrod pistols now. Standard British issue. The interrogator showed him a bottle suppressor. The officer stared at it. Didn't speak for 30 seconds. Finally said through translator, "This cannot be real military equipment. This is insanity." The interrogator responded, "It's eliminated 47 of your guards without a sound." The officer had no response to that. Ryland flew 4 more missions between September and January, each time using bottle suppressors. September 7th, communications hub at Lisle. 11 guards eliminated. October 23rd, ammunition depot, 8 guards. December 2nd, airfield supply area at Rabaul, 14 guards, 6-hour mission. Longest duration, January 18th, fuel storage at Bougainville, 9 guards. That was Ryland's final infiltration mission. Total career statistics: 8 infiltration missions, 61 guards eliminated personally, 14 bottles used. Mission success rate after bottle adoption, 100%. 0 casualties. OSS promoted him to training role. Too valuable to risk in field operations. Spent the rest of the war teaching other operatives bottle suppressor construction, infiltration techniques, engineering thinking under pressure. He trained approximately 70 operatives by war's end. Technical improvements continued. Corporal Henry Zhang tried beer bottles in October. Larger capacity, more baffle space. Result was 6 to 7 shots before failure. Drawback was added weight. Made weapon more unwieldy. Lieutenant Thomas Beck tried wine bottles in November. Glass too thin. Shattered on first shot. Coke bottles remained optimal. Ryland refined the baffle system in December, alternating steel wool and cotton every 1/4 inch instead of every 1/2 inch. Added wire mesh from window screens for structural support. New design lasted 7 to 8 shots consistently. Became standard taught to all new operatives. OSS documented the technique formally in January 1944. Ryland authored the manual. Field Expedient Sound Suppression Device, Technical Manual. Classification level, confidential. Distribution, OSS units, Pacific Theater only. The manual was declassified in 1975, currently archived at CIA Historical Division. Mission statistics through February 1944. 34 infiltration missions using bottle suppressors. Success rate 91%. 31 successful. 3 failed for reasons unrelated to suppression. Operative casualties: 2. Neither from suppressor failure. 1 from ambush during exfiltration. 1 from aircraft crash returning to base. Enemy guards eliminated quietly. 127 total. Bottles expended, approximately 80 to 90. Cost savings versus manufactured suppressors: incalculable. No manufactured suppressors were available anyway. The bottles filled a gap that couldn't be filled any other way. Ryland survived the war, returned to Detroit in September 1945. Age 31, went back to Ford Motor Company. Engineering Division, exhaust systems. Never mentioned the suppressor work. Married Helen Morrison in 1946. No relation to Lieutenant James Morrison, who died in March 1943. 3 children. Military decorations included Silver Star and Bronze Star. He died in March 1982, age 68. Heart attack. His obituary mentioned military service. Didn't detail operations. Most people who knew him had no idea what he'd done with Coca-Cola bottles in the Pacific. OSS estimated his technique saved 15 to 20 operative lives. prevented casualties that would have occurred without silent capability, extended viable infiltration operations by 6 months. CIA Historical Division documented the technique in 1989, published in Classified History of OSS Technical Innovations. The principle never changed. Multi-chamber gas expansion, progressive pressure reduction, modern suppressors use titanium and steel and advanced alloys, last 10,000 rounds, cost $400 to $1,200. Ryland's bottles were free, lasted 3 to 5 shots, but they were available when nothing else was. That's what mattered. U.S. Army Special Forces still teaches improvised suppression in SEER training. The principle emphasized: use available materials, understand physics, accept limitations. Ryland's bottles are cited as example of engineering thinking under pressure. Modern relevance? When supply chains fail, when proper equipment isn't available, when operatives need solutions immediately. The CIA Museum preserves Ryland's original manual. No physical bottle suppressors survived, all destroyed post-mission. Replica created in 2018 based on manual instructions, displayed at CIA headquarters. Restricted access. Label reads: Field Expedient Suppressor, World War II Pacific Theater, saved approximately 15 to 20 OSS operative lives through improvised engineering. August 23, 1943. 1 engineer, 1 Coke bottle, 19 guards. Innovation born from desperation and available materials. 14 operatives dead before, 2 dead after for unrelated reasons. Casualty rate dropped from 40% to 6%. Success rate increased from 26% to 91%. Cost $0. Durability 3 to 5 shots. Exactly mission requirement. Thomas Ryland never thought he was special. Just an engineer solving problems with whatever he had. But those Coke bottles changed Pacific infiltration operations forever. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Share this forgotten piece of engineering history. Subscribe for more untold stories from World War II. Real innovation, real lives saved. Drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Thank you for remembering these men. They deserve that much.